Hello students, today we are going to start a new poem. The name of the poem is The Inchcape Rock, written by Robert Southey. So, what is the name of the poem? The Inchcape Rock, written by Robert Southey. So, before we start the poem, let us know something about the author. You can also take page number 161. About the author. Robert Southey was born in Bristol and educated at Oxford University. He was a good friend of another famous poet, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He is generally considered a member of the Romantic poet and one of the Lake poets. Southey was appointed poet laureate in 1838. He wrote many poems, including narrative verse. His prose is now regarded more highly than his poetry. Southey wrote essays on moral issues, biographies, volumes of history, and also edited other works. So this is all about the author, the Inchcape Rock, the Robert Southey. So he was one of the best writers. He had written many poems, including narrative verses. And his prose is regarded more highly than his poetry. Okay? And Southey wrote many essays and more issues on biographies, volumes of history, and also edited other works. So we can say that he was a famous writer. So this is all about the writer Robert Southey. So you have to just remember who is the writer of this particular poem, the Inchcape Rock. Okay. So I will, before I started teaching the poem, I will say something about this poem. What is the poem is all about. So this poem is based on the rock called the Inchcape Rock. The name itself is that, the Inchcape Rock. It is based on a particular rock called the Inchcape Rock. That means a big rock. Okay. So, in the poem we see many ships have collapsed with the Inchcape Rock in the higher tide water. So, the Abbot of Arbroath installed a warning bell on the Inchcape Rock for the sailors' benefit. So, who tied the bell? Abbot of Arbroath. So, Abbot means here a male head of a monastery. And Arbroath is the name of a place in Scotland. Okay, and Rover, the another man we come across in this poem, that is, he is a pirate. Okay, so we come across in this poem, we see three characters. The first character is Abbot, and next one is the Rover. So, who is the Abbot? Abbot is the head of a monastery, he is a monk, and the Rover is a pirate. Okay, so the Abbot of Arbroath installed a warning bell on the Inchcape Rock for the sailors' benefit, so that when the water level rises and they cannot see the Inchcape Rock, the sound of the warning bell will help them to distance themselves from the Inchcape Rock, thus avoiding the danger. That is what in the mind of Abbott. Okay. So after that, the people praised him for his helpful effort. And however, Sir Ralph the rover removed the Inchcape bell. We see at the middle of the poem. Who removed the bell? Sir Ralph. He was a very wicked man and he was a pirate, and he removed the bell. Now let us see what will happen. So we will start the poem, the first stanza of the poem. So we will have the details of the poem, what it says. So we can also take page number 159. No stir in the air, no stir in the sea. The ship was still as she could be. Her sails from heaven received no motion. Her keel was steady in the ocean. This is the first stanza of the poem. Okay. No stir. Stir means here movement. Okay. No movement in the air, no movement in the sea. The ship was still as she could be. The ship was still as she could be. There was no movement in the air, there was no movement in the sea, and the atmosphere was very calm and quiet, and the waves were not so high. Okay. The next line, it says that the ship was still as she could be. Here, she is mentioned, the ship, we can say. So that the ship is given here the female character, she. The poet says that the ship was still as she could be. She is referring to the ship here, and the writer, the poet gives the female character to the ship. The ship was still, it means the ship was constant and steady, and it was moving. The next line, her sails from heaven received no motion. Heaven here, it is not that related to the heaven, the God and goddess sit up in the heaven, we say no. So it is not that here the heaven is the sky, and it says that here heaven is referring to the sky, so that the sail also was not receiving any motion. Here the sail, what is the sail here? Sail is the cloth which is tied on the ship. We can see it in the picture itself. The cloth which is tied on the ship, it is called the sail. So there is no movement in the sail also, and everything is very clear, very calm and quiet. So the sail from heaven received no motion. Motion here, the meaning is no movement. The sail also has no movement. They have not received any wind. There is no wind, so everything is still. Her keel was steady. Keel means here the base or the bottom part of the ship. The base or the bottom part of the ship. So the ship was steady. Steady means it is balanced in the ocean. So her keel was steady in the ocean. Okay. So in the first stanza, we can say that the poet describes the calmness of the sea, air and clouds. Okay, children? And the sea is calm and there is no movement. That is why the ship stood still, though it is moving. The passengers cannot make out any difference whether it is moving or not, because it was slowly moving, and the quietness of the atmosphere made them feel happy, and it was slowly moving. And the sail of the ship also are not getting any thrust movement of the air. The keel of the ship also is not moving. So that is the first stanza of the poem, the 4 line. So we move to the next line. Without either sign or sound of their shock, the waves flowed over the Inchcape rock. So little they rose, so little they fell. They did not move the Inchcape bell. Here the difficult words are shock, S-H-O-C-K. Shock means to move in order to disturb. And here they, it is referring to the waves. Okay, and rose means rise up. Okay, they, here again comes the last line. They did not move to the Inchcape rock. That means the waves did not move to the Inchcape rock. Okay, so here the poet says that the environment is so calm. Okay, and the tide was very little. The poet describes that there is mild waves. There is very little waves and it is just hit the Inchcape rock. Okay, the ocean waves overflowed the Inchcape rock smoothly that it touches the Inchcape bell. And bell is not ringing because the waves are so little and the passengers can make sure there is no danger at all. As the waves are not so high, they hide the dangerous Inchcape rock. Thus, the waves are not powerful to rock the bell. When the tides are very high, the storms and the winds are moving hardly, it can touch the Inchcape bell and it makes the ringing sound of the bell. So now the second stanza also tells us that the atmosphere, there is no motion neither in the atmosphere nor in the sea. There is lack of movement in the air and it is the reason the ship was very still. Because there is no air, the ship was also in a steady position in the ocean. So everything was favorable for the travelers to travel in the ship. Okay, we move on to the third stanza. The abbot of Aberbrot had placed that bell on the Inchcape rock. On a buoy in the storm, it floated and swung, and over the verse its warning rung. Okay, here the abbot, I had already mentioned the beginning of the poem. Who is abbot? The head of a monk. And Aberbrot, a place of Scotland, okay, had placed the bell on the Inchcape rock. Who placed the bell? The abbot placed the bell. Okay, on a buoy in the storm, it floated sun. On a buoy, B-U-O-Y. It is pronounced as buoy. The meaning is a floating object in the sea for marking. So he has done this great work and thinking of the people. Okay, and the waves, it's warning rung. Warning rung, and when the rock was hit by the surging swell. So here the poet says the abbot of Aberbrot was a spiritual man and he knew the danger posed by the rock for the ship. He knew the danger. Okay, so and the few inches of the rocks was visible, so that abbot tied the bell. When the high waves or when the storm comes, the people cannot see the rock, so there is a danger, lot of danger, and sometimes the ship hit the rock and it collapsed and the people die. So by thinking that the spiritual man tied that rock, tied the bell on the rock. A collision between the keel and the Inchcape rock could make the ship sink. So when it hit the ship, the ship hit the rock, it can collapse and people die. So he placed the bell attached to a buoy so that during the heavy storm, in the ocean and the rock is not seen, the sound of the bell by the heavy waves would be a warning to the sailors when we're near the rock. So, when the bell rings, it is a warning for the sailors. By hearing the bell, they knew that there is a danger and they changed the direction and moved to the other way. That is what it is done by the Abbot of Aberbrook. He was a very spiritual and kind-hearted man. Okay, so students, I have finished the 3 stanzas of the poem. Okay, and the first stanza we see about the weather condition of the sea. It was very calm and quiet, and also how the movement of the ship, and also we see the third stanza, who tied the rock bell on the Inchcape rope. The Abbot of Aberbrook tied the bell on the Inchcape rope. So, the next class we will start the rest of the poem. Okay? Till then, bye and take care of yourself. Thank you.